I was I'm in an amusement park with my wife and kids, and I was just trying to get on the Wi-Fi here to make sure that nothing gets interrupted. So sorry about that.
That is awesome. I love that you are doing this interview from an amusement park. God bless you.
Legoland right behind her. So.
Oh man, I love this. I love this. How are you? How are things going? How are you and your family doing?
Doing well, and yourself? You
I'm
guys keeping well?
Yeah, doing well here in Toronto. And before we dive into this movie, I have to ask a couple questions because, you know, with COVID and everything, and having been kind of cooped up for the last, I don't know, 100 years feels like. What has it been like for you as a guy who makes his living doing stand-up?
Ooh, well, I would say that a lot of my friends are like, oh, I miss it. I miss the stage. I got to get on stage. I'm like, fuck the stage. It's like, I get to stay home. I don't have to pack my bags. I hang out with my wife and kids. I get to eat home cooked meals. Like, this is the best. I'm watching movies. And then I get caught up and I'm writing all the stuff I want to write, and I have time, and I fucking love it. Cause I know at some point we're going to go back. So I'm like, I'm just taking advantage of it. I mean, I've never had so much pizza and bad food. I put on weight. I'm like, I'm fat and I'm happy. I love it.
Oh, I can so relate. Listen, I've never baked or cooked, and now I'm like a pro. I could have my own show, seriously, you know? But
I shaved last night for the first time in a while because I knew I had to do these things. So I'm like, oh man, I was looking like Tom Hanks in Castaway. It was.
Well, I'm very impressed. Good. I'm very impressed. You look fantastic today, Steve. I have to tell you, it works for you
as well.
When did you first know you were a funny guy?
You know, I would say that I was a smart ass like in grade school, and I remember my one teacher, Mr. Munhall, he was saying something. I quit back at him. He said, "You want to be funny? You want to be a clown? Why don't you join the circus?" And it always stuck in my head. And then I moved to Pittsburgh from New Jersey, and in that move, I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't the most athletic. I certainly far from the best looking. And I was like, well, I guess I'm funny, and I would just try to make people laugh. And that's when it started kind of clicking for me in terms of just goofing off and I guess embracing a sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I never really thought I was funny until I tried to stand up comedy for the first time. You know, the first job I ever got out of college was just sweeping floors at Caroline's Comedy Club on a whim. Never intending to be a comic. That was the first time I was ever in a comedy club, and I saw these young comics up there, and I was like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
And I tried it out, and the first time I did stand up, I always say it was like the first time I had sex. It was quick. I cried afterwards, and I couldn't wait to do it again. And I was hooked. It was like this girl I couldn't get out of my head.
Right.
And for my first 7 years, it's all I thought about every night.
Amazing. And who's been your biggest influences in terms of stand-up comedians?
Oh, I wouldn't say I was necessarily influenced by one comic because I got into it blind, okay? I didn't know anybody. I didn't look up to anybody because I never wanted to do it.
Right.
And so the first club I passed at in New York City, ironically, was the Comedy Cellar, which is the hardest club to pass at.
Right.
And I told my friends, I passed this club, the Cellar. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That I've been trying to get in it for years. And then I was exposed to Colin Quinn, Jim Norton, Greg Giraldo, Rich Voss, Keith Robinson, Patrice O'Neill. And I didn't know who they were necessarily my first few months, but I knew they were fucking hilarious. And from there on out, those were the guys that I saw that I was really influenced by in terms of wanting to get there at some point in my career. I knew when I was younger, I'm like, I'll never be like that. Yeah. And as I got older, things that they did have stuck with me, like Giraldo's work ethic, Patrice could tether off stage and on stage very well. He just was who he was. And Norton's brutal honesty. I mean, brutal honesty. I was like, if I could ever be that honest, just have a scintilla of his honesty, I'd be a better comic. But I think the king of them all was Colin Quinn. I mean, the guy is just effortless, and he's severely underrated. A great author, a great comic, turns out really relatable. Hour specials. I mean, the fact that he had an hour special premiere on CNN tells you just how far he can go with his comedy. I've always looked up to all those guys, even to this day, I don't see them as much as I used to, but I really appreciate them.
That's amazing because you know, for so many years, I've always loved going to comedy clubs here in Toronto. I mean, we have so many funny people and people have gone on to greatness, for goodness sake. But
Sure.
I always think about it as one of the toughest jobs, honestly, because I don't know how you get the courage to get up there. Not only, you know all your material, let it, you know, it comes so naturally. But then what happens when you don't get that feedback or you get that boo or you get, you know, or whatever? Like, how do you keep going?
Well, I think it's the promise of getting that dopamine from the connection.
Yeah.
When you write something that does connect with the audience, nothing else in the world has ever matched that for me. And when you fail, even on your worst attempt, it's like, well, you know what it's like when it succeeds, and you're rewarded like psychologically when it happens. So you want to just keep going back towards that. And I think that's the great thing about doing an hour special is that you've worked on those jokes for so many nights that you know it should be bulletproof by the time you film it. And when you do, that's the ultimate high, I think, is having 60 minutes of just unadulterated, pure slay. So that's the goal.
Amazing, amazing. So let's talk about the opening act. Now, this is really exciting because this is your feature film directorial debut. You wrote this. You are the boss here. And it must have been a very cathartic experience, I think, because just tell us a little bit about the story. And obviously it's very personal.
Extremely personal. When my show got canceled in the States, my phone was not ringing off the hook. It wasn't ringing off the hook when I was on the show. So, I knew that to get on TV, I had to write my own show and perhaps to do something I always wanted to see, which was a great film about stand-up because I felt like it had never been accomplished. That was my goal. I was like, I'm going to write the best film about stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. And so I put pen to paper and I thought nobody wants to watch a film about a 50-year-old driving home from Vegas. You want to write a film about a 20-year-old going to Vegas for the first time.
Right.
That's exciting. So to me, it was, all right, let's take a kid for the very first time, go into an A-list club, the Improv, opening for his idol, and then you're going to see all the fish in the water elements along with the character in terms of what does the light mean, keeping to your time, getting the intros right, being nervous to talk to the headliner, being extremely nervous when the manager's in the back of the room watching you because you're hoping to get booked there again. And then obviously all the partying and romanticism that comes with hanging out with the feature act and the sobriety, reality, and isolation of hanging out with the road-weary veteran played by Cedric. So I think the whole film takes place over 4 days and truly encapsulates not only a kid's first time, but really the heart and soul of stand-up comedy, what it means, because you're being exposed to all three echelons, the MC, the feature, and the headliner. And, the goal was clear, write the best film about stand-up. And now that I'm hearing from comedians, I'm hearing from insiders, not to be cocky, but it's like, no, we did it.
Good.
It's not even like thinking, it's like, no, we did it. That's it. I think that's the benchmark now. Before it was Punchline, which was down here. Big Sick and Sleepwalk With Me were great films, but I don't think the onus was directly on stand-up itself. And I was like, there's no distractions. It's about stand-up, period.
Amazing, amazing. Why did you go with Jimmy O Yang?
It's funny because Vince Vaughn had brought up Jimmy. He said, this film's so personal to you. It's semi-autobiographical, and everything that happens on the road, once Jimmy hits the road, has happened to me. Right. So people are going to see it go, oh, there's no way it happened to me. And it was cathartic, like you said, putting my demons to bed.
I'm sure.
But Vince said, hey, why don't we look at Jimmy O Yang to play a younger version of you? And I said, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And met with Jimmy, pitched it to him. He loved it. Off to the races.
And I love that this is being produced by Vince Vaughn and Peter Billingsley. I mean, that's so cool. Your first film. Come on. That's really cool. Yeah.
Not bad partners, right?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. Like, how influential were they? Were they on set a lot or,
Peter was on set quite a bit to help me and walk me through it. Vince was very instrumental in the story process, the script. So basically what happened is I never would have had a TV show if it wasn't for Vince.
Yeah.
Like, he was the one that said, you know, you're Korean and Irish, you're in Hollywood, your opportunities are limited. Unless they make a Riverdance Taekwondo movie, you're fucked. So write something for yourself. And I said, yeah, okay. So I bought all these books. 6 months later, I gave him a script. He goes, I can't believe you listen to me. So many people I've had this pep talk with good friends and they never do it, but you actually did it. And then we did it. Amazing. And so when I wrote the opening act, I gave it to him. He goes, I can't believe you did this. I'll take a look at it. And about 2 months later, he said, there's something here. We're going to make this. And I worked for 8 months. I'd go on the road, and then I meet with them Monday and Tuesday. They'd give me notes. I'd go on the road. I'd write the script. I'd go back and meet with them. They'd read the scenes. And that went on for about 7 or 8 months. And we finally got the script in a good enough place that we went ahead and Vince found funding. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I'm too young to play the headliner, too old to play the MC and feature. I'm just glad it's being done. He said, well, you should direct it. So I never directed anything before. He said, you should direct it. It's your story. Direct it. And I said, well, he goes, you're directing it. And so I was like, all right, I'm directing it. And I'm so glad he gave me I could get emotional right now, but I'm so glad he gave me the opportunity and responsibility to tell the story, because what I realized is how important the director's capacity is, because you are the conduit, you are the purveyor of the story. Yeah. And because it was so personal, I'm so glad I had this opportunity. I thank Vince every day for it. So,
were you nervous the very first day of your directing debut?
Fuck yes, I was extremely. I didn't know. This is me, and this is the inexperience. Okay, I read all the books. Yeah. I read everything I could read. I took the master classes. Herzog, Scorsese, Ron Howard. I show up on set. I'm sitting there. I got my headset on. Peter's here. My AD's here. Jimmy and Alex Moffat are on set. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I'm looking at the monitor. The AD looks at me. He shakes his head. I'm like, yeah. Peter looks at me. He's like, yeah. And then the AD looks at me again. He goes, you good? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you good? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you got to say action. I was like, Jesus Christ. I go, action. So I'm watching the scene. They say the dialogue. Now Jimmy and Alex are improving. And then the AD already goes, they're going to keep improving. I go, yeah, of course. He goes, they're going to keep going. I go, yeah. He goes, you got to say cut. I go, Jesus Christ, cut. The two things an 8-year-old knows to say when you're pretending to be a director. I was such a fucking idiot.
Oh no, come on. That's okay. I'm sure they forgave you. That's so wonderful, Steve. So for Just for Laughs, which is really, really amazing here, you guys are going to do like a virtual get together with Cedric, yourself, Jimmy. I mean, that's amazing. Just to talk about maybe your war stories and stuff, kind of.
Yeah, the one recurring thing I've heard from the comedians that have seen it, blunt comics, Byrne, Neil Brennan, Segura, they'll tell me the truth. Okay. Yeah. And they see it, they go, I loved it. It's extremely authentic, and you've rekindled so many horrible memories I've buried deep, and you brought them back to the surface, and I need to go see my psychiatrist again. That's what Segura said. And I think that's the joy of the film is getting through those moments, and you're exposing Jimmy in the film to seeing him develop slowly, bit by bit, his arsenal of weapons to be prepared for the circumstances that come for any young novice comic. And I think we're going to take the time to explore all of those, because the opening act is my story. Yeah. Cedric has a story. Anjelah, Roy, and Jimmy, they all have their own personal stories. So I think that'll be fun to explore it. And I gotta thank Just for Laughs, not only for the opportunity to have this and to get to talk with everybody about it, but also the film's cold open shows Jimmy and his father over the years bonding through stand-up comedy. It's not baseball. It's not hockey. Their bond was comedy. And the backstory we were trying to layer in is that his father, a Chinese immigrant, was learning English via stand-up comedy. And we needed a great catalog of great comics that we could go to and say, who can we go to? And I called Bruce at Just for Laughs. He said, absolutely, rolled out the red carpet, and everybody's worked for Just for Laughs. So it was kind of a slam dunk. And when I saw the cold open with all the bits instituted, I kind of got emotional, because it is, again, personal, but also Bruce, Paul, and everybody at the festival have been so supportive, not only for me, but comics all over this. It's the best international festival. So the fact that it takes place in Montreal And those guys have been nothing but supportive. I really thank them.
Well, listen, we can't thank you enough for the comedy that you've been giving us, man. You are hilarious. I really appreciate your time today, Steve. And best of luck with this movie. I can't wait for people to see it. Did you watch the series, the Jim Carrey series that was on a couple of years ago, like behind the scenes? I'm just blanking on the name of it right now.
I'm dying up here.
Yeah, I'm dying up here. I loved it. I thought, because I love the behind the scenes stuff, and it really did give us a flavor of that. It was.
Yeah. I think that was a moment in time, you know, Santino, Eric Griffin, Al
Yeah.
Magical, the fact that it took place hypothetically at the Comedy Store with the
Right.
experiences that everybody had. I thought it was a great show. I had seen a handful of episodes, but I got to say, this is more conducive to an individual's very first time, whether it's,
Yeah.
you know, these days a guy or a girl, it doesn't matter. But it's really about that first foray into the unknown and the pursuit of a goal. So that was more of a ensemble, where this is more of an individual's, you know, heartbreak and hopefully triumph, you know.
Well, for sure, triumph. Cutting, you're king of the ball. I'm telling you. Good, it's so great to have a chance to talk with you, and I hope that we'll get you back here in Toronto once this is all over and the borders are open, and we can get back to our normal lives. It'd be great to meet you in person.
The best spring break I ever had in college was Toronto. Everybody went to Florida and Texas, and my buddies and I one year, we said, let's go to Toronto. And it was the most friendly, fun city I'd been to, and I love any opportunity. And any city that's home to Russell Peters is good in my book. So yeah.
No kidding. We love our Russell, who's also in the film as well. So
also in the film. That's right. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, go find your family. Get on that roller coaster I see kind of behind you, and
Okay,
just have yourself a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for your time today, Steve. What a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay.
Be well, and
Bye
best to
bye.
your
You
family.
too.
Stay safe.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.